Welcome back to News Conference. We're talking about now the Ukraine and the problems in that part of the world with Congressman Brad Sherman, Democrat of Sherman Oaks, and I should say the congressman for Universal City, where we are today. Thank you very much again for joining us. The Secretary of State announced this past week there's an agreement to relieve some of the tension along the Ukraine-Russian border. Question is, if Secretary Kerry had already said that the Russians had lied to him before, why should we trust this agreement now?
You shouldn't trust anybody in international affairs, but we are in a position to verify what actually happens. And the key thing is to keep the main part of the Russian army out of the Ukraine and then keep that country intact. The Crimea, I think, is already gone, but that area had only been part of the Ukraine for a few decades, since the days of Khrushchev. The rest of the Ukraine, I think, can be kept intact, and I think that it's not a matter of believing Putin, it's a matter of verifying. I think it's the Russians who say trust but verify.
Is this president weak?
No, but I think that it's very easy for those who really hate the president to say, if only this president had more testosterone, then everybody in the world would do what we said.
Let's talk about that. The president said on the record, listen, if chemical weapons are used in Syria, we're going in. That changes the calculus, his words, draws the line. They use chemical weapons, all of a sudden, well, the Russians say, we don't want you to go in. They don't go in. And does that not set the table for internationally Vladimir Putin saying, this guy, he's a paper tiger?
Actually, we got far more in the deal involving Syria than we ever could have got by bombing. If we had bombed, we would have bombed only for the purpose of preventing them from using their chemical weapons, but we wouldn't have dared bomb their chemical weapons. Now we're bringing over half the materials have been disabled, neutralized, or taken out of the country. So,
but if that's true, why does the president make the statement in the first place, we're going to have a military response if they use chemical weapons?
He didn't phrase it exactly that way. He said that we're drawing a line, that our purpose here, that the only thing we're willing to fight about is to prevent the use of chemical weapons. And we are now diffusing those chemical weapons to a far greater degree than any military action would have achieved.
Are you satisfied with the effort at keeping the Iranian government from obtaining a nuclear weapon?
I'm dissatisfied, but I'm less dissatisfied than I was with the prior president. We had no sanctions for 8 years. If people think this is male pattern baldness, no, this is me banging my head against the wall through 3 administrations, trying to get new sanctions laws passed that were blocked continuously by the last administration, trying to get the sanctions laws that we already have on the books enforced. It was only in 2011 that we started applying serious sanctions. We now have some hope of preventing Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. We didn't have any hope at all 5 years ago.
The Israeli government has gone on the record saying they're very concerned about the deal that the United States has reached with the Iranian government.
The fact is that before the agreement, Iran was moving quickly toward a nuclear weapon. Now that effort has not been frozen, but it's been slowed.
We have 1 minute left. What should be the attitude towards the Syrian crisis? Should we get involved?
We've got to be involved in a very limited way, first and foremost to provide humanitarian aid. One problem we have is that all the major forces there are people that we should not be helping. Assad, obviously, but also the most powerful of his opponents.
So what do you do?
Well, first you provide aid to those countries that are taking in refugees and to refugees on the ground. Second, you make sure that you've minimized the likelihood that chemical weapons will be used again. And third, you try to reach some sort of ceasefire. And fourth, you provide financial assistance to those groups in Syria, and they are not terribly powerful, that represent modern democratic thought.
We're going to have to leave it at that. Happy Passover,
thank you.
The liberation of the Jewish people, and happy Easter as well. Thank you very much for coming. And thank you for watching. NBC4's news conference program is preempted this week due to the National Hockey League playoffs. I'm